Huh. So, abnormal psychology, scapegoating, hunger, lowered inhibitions, human cannibalism. We've covered cultural anthropology, feminism, gender, and Marshall claims upon the human mind through the theater of human reality. Whew. And my mom is waiting at home, hopefully, nice and healthy, and we'll be stronger. Hey ho! Stronger as we get there. I've definitely got to my house. You got to see some strong changes. You got to make some good decisions to improve the health function here. So I've been very upset, and I have good reason to be. It's a lot to take. Wow, that's a lot to take. Do you think I deserve to? I understand that I deserve to be spoken to that way. Here, this didn't seem very angry about that. Yeah, forgive me if I make that a little bit more time. Okay? That's what I'm doing. You're talking to me in public. Do you want to do that? Was that your plan? Or was that an accident? Hey? Indeed. Yeah. And what about me? Do you mind if I protect myself from you? Is that okay? Okay, I'm going to protect myself from you. Is that right of you? Yeah. Yeah, very much of me. 2% of my safety. Sorry. Schizophrenia. So I'm putting together these concepts, but I just don't think I'm ready to write about them. I mean, I'm sure if I did one day, they'll start to flow because, all these thoughts you think are just negative repetition and wheel ruts are ruts for a reason because they're paths that my mind can follow. Out here making paths, my mind can quickly make these pathways, which other might not work so hard to think about such things, and you might think, well, it bogs down my life, but this is the stuff that unbogs human life when you can't find out what else is making you sick. I've been in situations where I couldn't find out what was making me sick unless I accepted the impossible or the improbable. Because whatever is left, however improbable, ended up being the truth. You tend to deny everything but the truth sometimes. People tend to deny everything but the truth. They tend to want to, whether you're a policeman or not. You tend to want to deny everything but the truth because it seems easier. It's easier to. What if it were easier for you to believe than not? In the police world around here, if someone calls the police and they're a certain person, they get extra protection from whatever the scapegoat of the victim might reveal about that person. And so they're already disposed to support the protection of the caller. But the people who most often call the police are the people who are actually doing something wrong. And the people they call on usually are at a lower economic advantage. You'll see it happen all the time. The people who call are wrong, but they're allowed to be wrong. And the different forms of magical thinking that go with various types of economics and human consciousness provide for it to be wrong. Even a kind of survival imperative to go along with what is wrong. So when this person calls, even though most people who call the police are perpetrators in many things, they become more often assumed to be the innocent party, who is now being betrayed by the person they hurt, who isn't observing magical orders of thinking about what you get to say after you've been treated like you don't have a voice of your own in your own safety, and should accept that you never ever will, as far as these people are concerned. And it becomes hard to believe you'll deny everything but that possibility. Because the thing about abnormal psychology is it's the stuff that people don't want to look at the most. That, you or I or anyone only ever looks at because we're forced to. And if you're doing that, at some point, there's probably something in your domestic life that you had to look at. There's still any number of things I could look at, something comes to violence, you think, well, I know everything because this happened to my body, but what happened before that? What about the rest of your life? Now anything is kind of suspect. You realize your parents were using a lot of magical thinking all the time about money or things. And how could you take away someone's magical thinking like their religion when it's part of their survival? And so how could you take away their survival by interrupting their ability to minimize the agonies you're suffering because of an unfortunate excess in the extent to which they've gone to observe the magical orders of thinking demanded by an industrial world and its various abusive claims upon human flesh and blood and critical relationships with their mother and father before, during, and after every successive birth of spring in our own flesh and blood and that of the sun itself. It's all very, society is wrapped up in extremely morbid in alchemy and history and anthropology and magic and slow slants of language, which you can say the word love and you could use the word, someone can say I love you, but it doesn't carry the same weight, right? Sometimes even if it's only uttered at the right time. Words, you think, oh, well, he's good or he's this, he's that. But it's what's in it that matters. Someone could be saying your name in a positive way, coming up to you and doing what other people think is perfectly normal. Usually, Mike here has never used my name before. And I didn't play him. So that's the difference, isn't it? And things will change and things will happen that look justifiable on one level. Body language is like words, and it all of a sudden changes and seems to be positive, when in fact it's actually telegraphing an imminent claim upon your peace of mind. Right? It's the calm before the storm. They've entered a fugue where they become friendly, they become passive, they smile, they say your name, and you know something's wrong, but you're just like, well, nothing's immediately wrong. I mean, it's just, who wants to rock this boat? This is what this person needs to do, let's let him do it. And then you see that what's in this language is not pure at all. It's completely sick. And the schizophrenic in this case is the functional or industrial schizophrenic is carrying waste products. And they've come to the point, because of all various abuses and lowered inhibitions, where they are suffering from an incredible hunger to mete some justice out on you and or consume you. And the circumstances in which this happen will be sufficiently in their favor. And it will happen when conditions completely support their advantage. Then and only then, groups of people, they manipulate you into public, right? They keep goading you. The very fact they've effected a fairly farcical form of effect towards you, an address, is going to unnerve you whether you like it or not. It's doing the same thing as if they were cutting with a knife every day. Right? And eventually, it's kind of called gaslighting. The scapegoat is gaslit. Right? The setup of the scapegoat again and again and again. Right? Why? Why does that have to happen? Right, so I found that BC drivers who are meting out what looks very suspiciously like sadistic forms of punitive and negative reinforcement upon unsuspecting passengers. And after watching this and being sickened by it a number of times, it started happening to me more and more. And then it happened twice in 2 weeks, in conjunction with calling and complaining to the local office in Nanaimo. And the web of magical thinking and farcical and non-existent empathy and address that proceeded forth was such a biblical agony as you're looking to the face of the beast, really. And you're talking to the beast. What do you think is going to happen to you? And its hunger is going to get piqued. Hey, dragon. Hey, beast. Fuck you. Hey, look what you're doing to these children. Look what you did to me. Look at what happened. Do you think that's normal? Do you think this is normal? What about this? Is this normal? What happens if you look at my feelings? What happens if you see my point of view? Right? Do you want to know my point of view? And the RCMP officer, I got her to admit all kinds of things. One is that she wasn't interested in the least in my point of view, right? She actually had already arbitrated for the superiority of her and their point of view over mine, without having any information about what happened, and supposing to hypothesize, in fact, what had happened, having never been there and never supplied any such detail to indicate as much. And with a very strong intention of goading me and cowing me into submission after already complaining of sexual assault. It's incredible. It's fucking incredible. You're seeing a sick, sick animal wearing a uniform. And it's one example. And over the years, it's happened enough that in terms of aboriginal psychology, I can never think about the police or talk about them without saying one thing: they're predators. In all my knowledge and all my walking and all my studies, if I've evinced anyone of any confidence in my voice, which I'm sure if it's healthy at all will probably come and go as I speak, but the police are predators. A lot of other people are too, but it's important to understand that, in particular with the police, because of the way they're placed in society and the way you're groomed and they are groomed to think about their costume ball. And a ball really is human sacrifice. A ball is what you're doing when you're putting someone in prison, right? You're killing something about them, right? Right? The ball is a pall. It's something that's put over you, right? The ball shows that there's something put over man, and then man is put into a hole. And whoever can do that with the most efficiency, like the soldier or the policeman holding their rifle or their bat at the home plate, right, will get farther in life. Sports is a form of mental conditioning, along like the lines of being a police officer and lowering your inhibitions. Coming to the ball, where someone always has to be eaten up, right? And it's predatory. I noticed in cousins growing up, and children I went to school with, is the ones that did sports became more aggressive, more prone, if not always, to predatory, aggressive, and bullying behavior, and goading, and just vicious ways of speaking to other people. Vicious way there, presumably friendly relations with you, in terms which sounded almost the opposite. I've known people that'll treat you in a way that's the opposite of the way someone would treat you, who thinks of themselves as a friend. It's hypocritical. Right? It's a psychosis. And it's like, I knew this guy, Trevor, who had hooked upon me when we were a child, who said he saw me during swimming lessons when I was 6 or 7,